Welcome back into the extended Georgia Vote Political Roundtable. Joshua Edmonds, a Republican strategist, Fal Sabak, a Democratic strategist, AJC politics reporter Greg Bluestein, two veterans of the panel, one newcomer. We're so grateful to have you all. And you stuck around through the first two blocks. You're still here for the extended panel.
You've been very nice.
Well, we'll see what happens after here.
This is for the Plus subscribers only.
Everyone's welcome. It's a free app. But let's start here, Joshua. You're going to get the first question again because you're on the hot seat here a little bit. We were talking about campaign finance and how important this date on the calendar coming up in Georgia is. June 30th. That's the deadline for campaigns to report how much they have raised this period. Now, there's a grace window. It goes into like July 8th, I think it is, when candidates who maybe are a little tardy in reporting, they have some time. But we're going to start to see how much all of the announced candidates for Georgia's governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, major roles have raised. What are candidates who are not in these races, the proto-candidates, the potential candidates, what are they watching for?
You know, I think that there's a lot less actually at stake in this first report for the governor's race and the Senate race, I think, because these are two races that, quite frankly, I don't think anyone thinks the slate is finalized. There's going to be major candidates that still jump in both of these races, and that dynamic is going to change day one when that happens.
Can I pause you for a second, just because I'm seeing a lot of head nodding here. Do you both agree? Because there are some people out there who may say, boy, we've got a lot of candidates in these races, that this slate is full. Do you agree more are going to get in, Val?
Yeah, I do think more.
Greg?
Well, Burt Jones has still not got it. We all know he's getting in, so that'll change the dynamic.
His campaign would say, or I shouldn't say campaign, they would say, nothing's been announced yet. But worst kept secret in politics.
It's the worst kept secret in Georgia politics. So obviously he won't be on these reports, but Chris Carr will be. And so, again, if he has a weak number, it could encourage others. Brad Raffensperger, maybe even some more outsiders. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene says, oh, wow, these guys could barely raise anything. I'm going to get in.
And Joshua, I think that was a point that you were kind of getting to as well. Is that where you think a lot of the action is going to be happening here?
I think it's going to be particularly these folks who are looking and seeing where is the strength so far in this race financially, but also in some of these other races, the Attorney General's race, as well as the Lieutenant Governor's race. You're seeing in a situation with Lieutenant Governor where you've got three of the most powerful senators in the legislature who have all thrown their hats in the ring, all of them with new roles now, so to speak. But you got a situation where, you know, the President Pro Tem and the Appropriations Chairman are both in the race, both splitting the Middle South Georgia vote. And then you've got former Majority Leader Steve Gooch, who is representing per capita the largest by state Senate district, concentration of Republican primary voters. You've got 75% of the Republican primary voting base north of Macon. So can Steve Gooch consolidate financially the same basis of support that he represents by pure demographics of voter residents? I think that's going to be a huge story to tell. Can John F. Kennedy or Blake Tillery show serious fundraising capacity and not cannibalize each other's base now that we've got two major names who are Macon and South? I think that tells a huge story. Attorney General's race, you've got Bill Cowsert, Brian Strickland. You've got one candidate with more experience in the courtroom than the other has been alive. But the other one, a very strong firebrand on conservative politics, has the base financially consolidated behind one of these two candidates, one who may end up in a congressional race before it's all said and done. It's a lot to see.
Yeah, there's a lot. Fal, are these reporting periods, and when these reports come out, are these reports momentum makers or breakers?
They can be, depending on how the rest of the campaign is going. I mean, if you've got a good candidate and they're not raising any money, the likelihood of them coming out in the next report with a ton of money is probably... That signifies that there's something kind of going on there.
Do donors pay attention to this stuff too? In other words, if a potential donor sees a candidate who they like, they see that candidate put up a big number, would that donor potentially be more incentivized to jump in and support the candidate because they think, hey, this is somebody who has a real shot?
Yes.
And vice versa, somebody who's putting up weak numbers could have a sort of an exponential decreasing effect.
And to your point, it doesn't even necessarily mean, have a shot, not have a shot. Is this person, this candidate, are they working and doing the right things on the campaign to make sure they're making the calls? They're sitting down, they're asking people for money. That's kind of indicative too. So if I'm a donor and I'm looking at somebody who I like and may not have raised a ton of money, I'm going to start asking other questions. What are they spending on? What are they XYZ? If I see a candidate that has a big number, I'm going to be more willing to want to give them a larger check.
Donors like winners, and they like elbow grease.
Yes.
We're talking about big number. Big number is the words you just used. Greg, how expensive could these races get?
I mean, if you think back to the 2020 cycle, including the presidential here in Georgia, it cost almost $1 billion. Back in 2022, we're talking $500 million. So a governor's race that easily went into the 9 figures. So we're going to have huge numbers with candidates who can raise that type of money. Keisha Lance Bottoms has a broad national network. Whoever emerges as a Senate candidate will get all sorts of donations from here in Georgia, but also around the nation on the Republican side. And on the Democratic side, you already know that Senator John Ossoff is a fundraising dynamo. He shattered records as a congressional candidate back in 2017 for a special election. Fast forward to now when he has a machine raising money for him.
No, please, go ahead.
And I also wanted to add to that with the Senate race, it is going to be in the national spotlight. This is going to be one seat where the Democrats and Republicans are going to both be fighting for this seat. And so that money is going to reflect the importance of that race.
Can I ask a metaphysical, sort of like a macro level question to you all, and particularly you two, because you are in politics, you're in professional politics right now. Is it good, Fallon, I'm going to ask you this first, but I ask you too. Is it good for democracy that politics have gotten so expensive?
Ooh. Look, I think that there's an argument to be made that it does price people out. If you have a really good candidate who maybe comes from a background that's not necessarily a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, business person, I think you price people out. So there is an argument to be made, but at the same time, you need to be the candidate that you are asking people to buy into you. That's what part of democracy is. You want to be a candidate where people are buying into your campaign, you're doing this together, and I think you can look at it either way, it just depends on where you're coming from in the first place.
Joshua, what do you think?
I would echo a lot of that. I mean, money is your mechanism to spread your message. But if your message is I'm crooked or that I'm trying to buy this race, then all you're doing is amplifying a bad message. So I think good candidates at the end of the day still win, and money is the tool by which candidates are able to amplify that message.
Greg, in your experience covering politics and Georgia politics in particular, and I hear this too from a lot of people, I think there's this conception of there's shoe leather reporting, but there's a conception of kind of shoe leather politicking too for candidates, and a lot of door knocking and retail politics. You hear about that a lot. It still exists.
Yeah.
But is it maybe a misconception how big of a role that side of politicking plays versus the fundraising side?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because the best candidates can do both really well. But right now, all the candidates are just doing that first part. They are just raising money almost exclusively. They might have an event here and there, but they're really hitting the phones, they're hitting the donors, they're doing what you call time. They're locked in some windowless room somewhere in their campaign offices, just dialing for dollars over and over again. And you have to be willing to put that work in to be a successful candidate in Georgia right now.
We're going to be keeping an eye on these campaign finance reports to see how big the numbers are, but also what happens is all these other campaigns and potential campaigns take a look at them as well. We're out of time here, guys. Thank you so much as always.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching us here on 11 Alive Plus.